I'm a relaxed, easygoing dude, but when I put the glasses on, I'm in character. It takes a life of its own.
Yeah, that's the part that surprised me, actually, when we met today without you with the glasses.
Yeah,
you were totally normal.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So you're really putting on a total 180 on your actual personality when you're in that.
All right, this is the Schmo. He's the pro. It's the digital social hour. We're wrapping this thing up. Clearly, this is a completely different guy speaking than the one you were just listening to.
All right, guys, got the Schmo here today. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for making it happen.
Yeah, it's rare not to see you in your uniform.
I appreciate that. Well, actually, I had a basketball uniform the first couple of times we met.
Yeah.
We played it in the Mayweather celebrity basketball game. You came out to the Fight Hoops game, I believe, too.
Yep.
So I've actually seen you in like a basketball environment on the gym court.
Yeah, this is the first time we're not in a basketball environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can hoop, though, bro.
It's not like you. You're scoring points. I wish I had your height.
Yeah, the height comes in handy, man. That was a fun game. You organize that every year, the one with the UFC fighters?
I don't think that's happening ever again.
Really?
Well, Jamal Hill tore his Achilles.
I remember that.
And
Dana called you up, didn't he?
Actually, no, they did not. But everyone wanted to play.
Yeah.
So
it was a blast.
So much fun,
dude.
I would do it every year.
I can't believe he still played on it too. He came in to take the last shot.
He's a hooper.
That dude's mental toughness.
He's good. But Phil Rowe, how good is Phil Rowe at basketball?
He was good. I was upset we lost that game, man.
DC was too.
DC blocked me. He blocked me. And how tall is that man?
5'10".
Yeah, I never told anyone that, to be honest. I was pretty embarrassed.
DC was on our team. That's right. Okay.
DC was on the other team. I was on Jamal's team. You were on DC's team, right?
I was on DC's team.
Yeah, you guys got us.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe he blocked me, dude. He was so pumped.
He's a competitive guy, right?
He is. What you been up to lately, though?
I'm just chilling. I'm diversifying. I saw him on ESPN radio here in Vegas every Tuesday. So not as much in the podcast scene as live radio. I do a lot of professional sports outside of just doing combat sports. We just had boxing. We just had Gervonta Tank Davis. And,
you were commentating that?
I was not commentating that. I was still covering it as media.
Oh, nice.
I do commentate fights, though, for Up Next Fighting, UNF. They're an independent organization in Southern California. Their next event's July 6th, so I'm their Schmo Rogan. I'm their post-fight interviewer, and I do commentary as like the third man in the booth for them. It's a mix of both professional and amateur fighters, so it's fun. It's at the Commerce Casino Hotel, and it's like 15 to 17 fights usually. And,
holy crap.
And Southern California is a hotbed. It's a lot of good talent comes out of those gyms in that region. So it's a fun event. And some of those guys, they end up going into the UFC and fighting the UFC.
Wow.
Taco Badilla just fought a couple weeks ago, UFC Fight Night. He's an alum from Up Next Fighting. So I do that. This week I'm in Salt Lake City. I'm going to do some stuff with the PFL. So that's more MMA. I was just at Stanford because Helen, my fiance's younger brother, just graduated Stanford Business School. So I went up to that campus and
that's a big deal.
Stay busy, man. I do NFL, NBA, baseball, MMA, boxing.
Jeez, you got no time off, my guy.
Stay entertained.
Combat sports, how you made it like at first, though, right?
That's how I blew up. That's how I got my social media following.
Got it. From interviewing fighters, right?
I would say, yes, of course, interviewing fighters, but my first viral schmoment was finally asking a question at a press conference. It's back in April of 2019 that they were doing a seasonal press conference in Atlanta, and I got the mic and I asked Dana White a question in a very schmo way, and garnered a lot of attention, and I've kind of been on a rocket ship going forward since then.
Nice. Yeah, it took some balls to ask that question, right?
It did. I planned it for 3 weeks. You know,
oh, you did?
I knew it was going to go one or two ways: exceptionally well or exceptionally bad. It was either going to be my last like UFC event, or it was going to catapult me into doing more and more of these. And
he's polarizing. Depends what day you catch him too.
That's true. Answer. I've been on both sides.
Yeah, he's got those days, right? That Nina girl really blew up recently.
Yeah,
she's like the female version of you.
A lot of people tell me that too. A lot of people say that. Yeah, she's doing it.
Yeah, and it
she
seems
works
like
for them. She's doing that. She's got it going.
Seems like out of nowhere too. Like past year, I don't know how long she's been there, but
yeah, she's blowing up in that space for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really unique way and a personal way of connecting with the athletes.
Absolutely, you gotta find ways to showcase their personalities. That's exactly why I created my character, and she's found a great way to do things in her style too. So, and that's what people want to see.
Yeah.
People want to see that side of their favorite athletes.
Yeah. No, it's cool to see you do that because a lot of athletes are kind of, what's the word? I don't know if they like reporters. You know what I mean?
There's a very bad stigma with the media, and I don't even know if it necessarily derived from sports media as a general media, but look, when I started doing Schmo stuff and I was working in corporate America back in 2015, we're talking nearly a decade ago, I noticed back then there was a disconnect between athletes and media. I just felt like media were getting so lazy with how they're asking questions and going about their day. It's like, oh, you just won. How does it feel? Or you just like just basic generic things that they're not even really putting effort into their jobs. And I think a lot of what you see today is as that's a repercussion of people not doing their jobs the way they should have been doing them.
Facts. You saw the Mavericks go out the media heavy this playoff run.
Oh, yeah, just stupid questions. But that's why I think there's so much more athletes now that have become their own media, start their own podcasts, send their own message. I see it in all sports, not just MMA, but NBA, NFL, baseball. Everyone's getting their own podcast now. So it's kind of forcing the hand of traditional media. Hey, how are you going to respond to this? How are you going to stay afloat?
Right.
Because right now it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's a new era. They're going to lose viewership with all these podcasts. LeBron started one, Shaq, so many people, right?
They've already been losing it, and that means they're losing sponsors, and just there's just been this whole shift in the whole media industry the past few years, and it's still shifting right now. It's interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah. I know NBA especially, though. Even the reporters, a lot of them are former players now. Reggie Miller.
Yeah. And I even think like NBA and TNT, they started doing a couple of years ago. I'm not as familiar with it this year. I don't know if I watched as much this year, but I feel like they do like Tuesday nights, they do like players only nights or something like that. So the broadcasters are only guys that played or in the league at some point, which I think was a unique spin.
Yeah. Yeah, you found a great niche because the players respect you and like you, right? Because there's certain reporters that get a lot of heat.
I'm not there for clickbait or just to like a got you type of moment. I'm there to entertain and have fun.
Yeah, because a lot of guys go at Skip.
Yes. Well, Skip's got a very specific brand where he knows he's pissing people off. He knows he's marginalizing a certain audience just to get a reaction out of you.
Yeah. I see a lot of players go after Shams.
Yes. Oh, I actually, Shams, Chicago guy, right?
Yeah, the Indian guy reports on NBA news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know who he is. I've met him before. Are they going after him?
Sometimes he'll report something and then the players don't think it's true. So that's the problem with breaking news. Sometimes it's a bad source.
Yeah. So with the whole breaking news bit, like sometimes I get breaking news. There's been occasions where I've done it, but it's not my brand. I don't really care to be the one to break news.
Right.
Like,
yeah, you never cover the drama, I noticed.
I'm just in it to have fun and entertain.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a drama type person. Like this is my personality that we're talking to now. Like I'm a relaxed, easygoing dude, but when I put the glasses on and I'm in character, it takes a life of its own.
Yeah, that's the part that surprised me, actually, when we met today without you with the glasses.
Yeah.
You were totally normal.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So you're really putting on a total 180 on your actual personality when you're in that.
Completely. It's like, well, I come from Chicago, right? So I have a lot of influences and the Second City Chicago legends, and there's been so many characters, even in broadcasting. Harry Carey had crazy big glasses. That's an influence. But I always say Craig Sager, remember long-time NBA reporter, with the clothing meets Rodney Dangerfield, sports first, comedy second. But a lot of influences, John Belushi, Chris Farley, rest in peace, Mike Myers, like both those guys, all three of those guys, huge influences throughout my childhood and just humor and being a weird, goofy guy.
I love that. And so you want to do this for a while then?
I've been the Schmo for 9 years already. Holy crap, right? It's been a full-time gig for 9 years. I mean, look, I love waking up, talking sports, and making people laugh. That's the premise. So however I can do that. When I created the character, no, I didn't expect to be a Schmo full-time or for life or whatever it is, but like I could easily create another character like I did with the Schmo and make it completely different.
Wow.
But you know, I'm having fun and that's what it's about, and I'm evolving. Like what I'm doing today looks a lot different than last year and even 2-3 years ago. Even the media game's different because I'm a credentialed media member and I've just noticed a lot of things shifting, and I'm just even looking at ways to just evolve my content now and just expand because I'm doing so many things. Like I'm doing a lot of local things. I work with Ford Country here, locally in Nevada at that dealership, and I'm kind of like their spokesperson. So I'm doing more local Ford vehicle content. And then I've been doing a lot of stuff with Better Media and Jake Paul's company.
Nice.
So that's always important for the fight content. And I just find ways to stay involved and grow. That's what's important to me.
Yeah. You said you've seen a lot of shifting. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, to kind of going back to what we said a couple of minutes ago about kind of athletes empowering themselves to be their own voice. Like I feel like guys creating more content, being content creators themselves outside of competing inside a ring or a cage, starting their own YouTube channels, creating content. So the interview like content that's always been my bread and butter, I don't know if the demand's the same for it as it once was. The access is different now because a lot more, I think, creators are trying to get into the media space, and there's a blend between what's media, what's a content creator. Because when I started this, like, I was the only one who these traditional media would be like, how do I classify this guy? Because I take the best of the influencer content creator world and I take the best of the media world, which is what I come from. And I find a balance and I find what works between them. But everyone wants to classify you and put you in a bubble for something. And I've always blurred those lines. But now I feel like traditional media is at this point where they're just taking so much from the content creator world and blending it to the media world. It's like I kind of was ahead of my time.
Yeah, you were 9 years ago. Super. Yeah. That was before influencers even like came out.
Yeah. And I always took offense to being an influencer. Like, I'm not an influencer, but it wasn't until like 2 years ago. I'm like, all right, call me an influencer, whatever it is, as long as my bank account's going.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, it did have a negative stigma though, being labeled one.
It did. It did.
Yeah. So I guess you're moving into a new vertical then if these interviews are dying out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm doing everything. Like, my whole vision when I created the character is this overzealous, like over the top character that's not just limited to one specific thing. Like, when I blew up in MMA, I doubled down to that. The audience wants to see it. I'm going to listen to it. People started following me that were fight fans. And I'm like, I'm a big fight fan. And if fight fans want to see that more of those interviews and that content, I'll give you more fight related content. But for me, sports is entertainment. Entertainment's everything. It's food, it's travel, it's fashion, and sports, among other things. I want to do it all.
Yeah. Which major league sports do you think does the best job at media integrations?
Well, I think in this country in particular, NFL is king. I think when I look at the NFL, if you look at their metrics, if you look at how they're able to own the calendar, not just in football season, but outside of football season, because if you really break it down, 17-week regular season schedule, but they do such a good job of owning the calendar year in and year out. Because look, I'm doing a sport, mixed martial arts, so there's no off season. So of course there's a fight or an event going on every single week, as there should be in combat sports and boxing, whether it's that or MMA. There's got to be something going on. But if you look at what the NFL does in a team, team sports with their popularity, the NFL and the NBA dominate popularity in this country from the sports world. Everyone talks about the big four, hockey, baseball being the 3 and 4. But if you go and you look at what the NFL's doing, just like the NFL draft, how people celebrate the NFL draft and these OTAs and these off seasons, like right now at this particular time we're doing the show, this is the most dead time, they say, in professional sports at this midway through the summer with basketball coming to an end with the NBA finals potentially.
Could end
tonight. Hockey coming to an end. You're in the thick of baseball season. Some people don't really start paying attention to the pennant race in the fall.
Yeah.
So like it could be the most boring time. But the NFL, they do such a good job. If you talk about those pundits in TV, the ESPNs, the Foxes, they talk about the NFL every single morning. They have you talking about them. That's
true.
The conversation. That's why I think they do the best.
Yeah, I could see that. Do you think any sport will ever take over the big four in America?
I think MMA, I think UFC, what they've done with the brand has the closest thing to butting into the big four.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call it the fourth one being hockey, which probably is. I think baseball's ahead of hockey, in a lot of metrics, just mainly because baseball's like 162 game season.
Right.
They're just there the most time of the year, and there's so many players, so many moving things.
Contracts are bigger too.
Contracts are bigger. There's no salary cap, and they're all global sports, but I think baseball is even more global than a sport like hockey.
Right.
Just in terms of just where popularity is region-wise and whatnot. But I think if there's ever a chance for a sport to penetrate, or sports league, it would be the UFC.
I agree. I think it might eclipse hockey in our lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
mean, think about it too. Like 30 years, this sport. Where was the NFL 30 years into their sport? Were they still wearing leather helmets? If not, they may have just graduated from leather helmets.
Right.
But it looked completely different. The evolution you've seen in this sport in 30 years has been astronomical. I can only imagine what it would look like 30 years from now.
Yeah. Who's your favorite sports commissioner?
Well, I'm biased though, but then it would be Dana,
I knew you were going to say that.
But it has to be. Why? Because what other sports commissioner will you get access to like you would for Dana White? You're not going to get the same with Adam Silver or Roger Goodell and stuff. Go to Roger Goodell. Look at him during the NFL draft. He gets booed when he's going into the other cities.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He gets booed.
Why?
And, well, not as much now as it was like 5-10 years ago. Because when he first came into the league, like early mid 2000s, took over for Paul Tagliabue, he was just like this iron fist commissioner, like giving out fines and suspending players for all these crazy things. Like obviously marijuana, the leniency now versus back then, completely different. But like people would be suspended for longer periods of time back then. And what really I think disconnected him and fans is there would just be no continuity in the punishments. Someone like Ray Rice, on camera with beating his wife, that punishment so much different than like someone else like with domestic violence and whatnot. There was just no consistency, and I think the fans pointed that out. But I would say over the past couple of years, he's really relaxed in a lot of those ways and changed things. And at the end of the day, who's paying his salaries? It's the NFL owners. The NFL owners love the guy. So.
Right. I'd agree. Dana, the access is crazy.
Yeah. But Dana's got to be it.
Yeah. I don't see other interviewers interviewing commissioners of other leagues just, pulling up to them and asking them questions like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
UFC press conferences are goated too.
That's where I made my bread and butter initially, yeah.
Well, what were some of your favorite press conferences?
Well, it's got to go back to UFC for me, clearly UFC 236 because of my moment, my viral Schmo asking Dana the 165-pound question. But literally you could throw any Conor McGregor press conference in there because he always makes it entertaining. You're never going to get like, him and Nate Diaz, iconic throwing of the water bottle, any of that type of stuff. So obviously I have my bias and then for my moment, but then I would say also anything Conor McGregor related.
Can't deny that. I was bummed when the fight got canceled, actually.
Yeah, of course.
I think his shin is just toast, man.
It was completely shattered. And a lot of people forget, too, that going into that Dustin Poirier trilogy fight, he had injured that leg that snapped. He was contemplating pulling out. I remember, whether it was a documentary I saw or somewhere I saw video footage of just like the struggle of him dealing with that injury leading up to the fight.
Wow. Damn. If he pulled out, he could have still been fighting now.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You never know.
Yeah. That nerve damage is no joke, though.
It's crazy. I think Sean Strickland, someone who's a very colorful personality, posted some sort of x-ray of his leg bones and how all the damage and the wear and tear, it just doesn't look like a traditional human leg.
Jeez.
It's a very brutal, unforgiving sport. But, that's why we love it so much. High risk, high reward.
Have you ever gotten to interview Sean?
Yeah, plenty of times.
What'd you ask him?
So many different things. Outside of fighting's great stuff. I mean, the thing about Sean is you don't have to really ask him anything. He'll dictate where the interview is going to go.
Yeah.
He will bring in politics. He'll bring in gender. He'll bring in anything.
It's hilarious.
He likes to make fun, and that's great because the character, the Schmo, if you Google it, it's stupid person. My whole shtick is being self-deprecating. So if I'm going to have an athlete poking fun at me and what I'm wearing and what I'm doing, it makes my job that much easier.
Yeah. He either hates you or loves you. I noticed with him.
Yes, I'll have a good relationship with him. I know he doesn't hate me.
Yeah. You didn't box him like Sneeko?
I did not box him like Sneeko. That takes a lot of balls. I've gone in there and done like Schmo versus the Pro with some guys.
Yeah.
But he's not one of them. And the thing with Strickland is I don't think he really has an off switch. So I know he was legit. Yeah, maybe he's not throwing with 100% power, but legit, when you watch Sean Strickland fight, he never really throws 100% with power anyways. He's just there to touch guys up, maybe 60 to 70%. And then sure, occasionally he'll throw something with power, but most of his stuff is high volume just to touch you up anyways. But I don't think he really has an off switch for if he's going up against Sneeko or for he's going up against Dricus du Plessis.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is your favorite sport to watch?
It's probably NFL and UFC.
Wow. NFL's too slow for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, for me, I watch Red Zone, and I've been playing. I'm in fantasy football since I was 10, 12 years old, and I've been a commissioner with all my frat buddies for a decade. We've been in this league, and it's super competitive. There's 14 of us, so the stakes are always high.
It's a deep league.
It's deep, and there's bragging rights on the line every time, and we do this in-person draft every year. So like, I have such like sweat equity in the season.
That makes sense.
And I'm from Chicago, so I've been this diehard Bears fan since I was a kid.
That's a rough one.
So I more have just allegiance to my city, and I think that's what associates. But if you look at the sheer number of sports time that I watch, my eyes are glued to something, I don't think it beats MMA. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Especially in the past 6-7 years.
It's hard to beat MMA, man, especially in person.
Especially in person, and Helen and I have been so blessed to see so many great fights in person, and a bulk of those blessings came during the pandemic. Just being on Fight Island and being there, and like no very limited humans being involved to see what's going on behind the scenes, just to get the fights to go off. Just the crazy things we did, like traveling to Abu Dhabi, like is a 16, 17-hour flight, but then getting quarantined into a room and then bringing you 3 meals a day for 48 hours. like it's just like you're locked in your room, and the only time you leave the room is to get tested to make sure you don't have the COVID, which no one talks about anymore.
Yeah, no one talks about anymore.
It's funny how that is.
Crazy. So you went to the bubble? That's cool.
Yes.
That was like
the Fight
first,
Island.
Yeah, the first big bubble.
Yes. That was like experiences that I'll never forget.
Yeah. So you couldn't even interview anyone then?
No, we did.
Oh, you did?
And I was interviewing people with like a mask on and like a plastic thing. If you look back at some of those old interviews, it's hilarious.
People
like
are gonna
face
laugh.
shield. But the thing is too, is I didn't do it by choice.
Right.
I didn't want to wear any of that stuff, but we had to. I'm sure that the people on the UFC side that were enforcing it were just doing it to cover their ass, to save their job. They were not necessarily doing it because, oh my God, you're going to do this or that. They just want to protect themselves.
Yeah, they didn't give
Yeah.
They're going to look, future generations are literally going to laugh, I think, at what we did during that pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, people are still laughing now.
Facts. And they made a lot of people in your industry get the shot too.
You know, it's crazy too. It's like, I only got it because I figured.
Oh, you had to get it?
I had to get it because that's how we could travel. That's how we could. And didn't get it. They would put you into all these extra like things and hurdles to just to cover it. Like there was a wristband for people that had the shot versus didn't have the shot. And again, like at least they're putting this on, because had they didn't, I'm sure the networks and the investors would have shut it down.
Yeah. Did you get all 4 though?
No. I think I got the first one and the second one, but I didn't get any boosters.
You should be fine.
Did you get any boosters?
Hell no.
Did you get any of the shots?
No. But I was lucky I didn't have a job that required it or a setting.
What's so crazy though too, it's like I feel like the people that kept getting the shots and boosters were the ones who kept ending up getting COVID.
Facts. Yeah, some people got all 4.
I never got COVID until I got the first shot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I got it at Dan Blazarian's house. So I thought I was dying. I got like the first wave before it hit the news. That deadly.
Oh man.
I felt like it kept getting weaker from there.
And I think it did, because all the strains, and it still exists now. People think they're getting the flu or the cold. It might even be some sort of descendant variation of the virus. But like, yeah, what really sucks is like all the deaths being labeled as COVID deaths, but it was just they had other causes of death too. And it's like we never really know what the numbers are too, because did people all of a sudden start dying of COVID? Now I hear nobody dying of COVID.
Yeah, it's like inflated. And now I just saw ventilators killed a ton of people. They just found out.
I'm sure they did.
Like when you got put on that, you pretty much died.
And it's like too, it's like what's the number one cause of that death in the world or this country? Heart disease and stuff like that. Who are the people dying? What are the numbers? Were they overweight? Did they have pre-existing conditions? Like, if you're going to come out with data, at least be transparent with the big full picture rather than just picking what's convenient for your argument.
Yeah. It was crazy.
I'm a stickler for that type of stuff.
No, I look back and I'm like, wow, they really were good at manipulating people's emotions during that time. They got me for a bit, dude. I almost got it. I almost got the shot.
Like I said, we did it because we felt we had to do it.
And there's also a lot of family pressure too. And friends.
I know my parents it was super important for them.
My parents, my fiance's parents, and it's like, damn, am I going to be the black horse? What is it, black sheep of the family or something? Mm-hmm. You know? but time will tell. Truth always reveals itself, doesn't it? Dude, it's been cool. Anything events you got coming up next where people can find you at?
Gonna be doing some PFL this weekend. They're in Salt Lake City. I'm gonna do some content around that. Next week's gonna be the busiest week of the year with International Fight Week. I'll be at the UFC Expo.
Will you be at Power Slap?
I don't know if I'll be at Power Slap.
Okay.
Not sure yet. Because there's also like a SAC camp going on with NFL stuff. Max Crosby and some of the big football players. But I will be at UFC 303.
Got it.
I do know that, which all leads up to that. I'll be at UFC 303. Not sure if I'll be at Power Slap yet. Just there's so many different people and things pull me in different directions. Will you be there?
I will be. I'd love to see you at one. Your reactions would be hilarious at Power Slap.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been to one yet?
I've not been to one yet. No.
That's surprising. I'm surprised because you go to all the UFC events.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Is it not your scene or is there a reason?
I'm just, it's not, I'll have nothing negative to say. It's just not my cup of tea.
Really?
It's just not my cup of tea. Like, some people are into cricket. I'm not, or some people are into volleyball or some people are into motocross and some people aren't. Like, people have their sports. People have what they like and don't like. It was just not something that, like, I fell in love with.
I feel that. So you're a fight enthusiast. I don't see it as a sport.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would not consider that a sport.
What would you say?
Just entertainment.
Like entertainment?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If I could take myself out of being a sports media world, which is, if we're getting rid of labels, which I ultimately want, I could totally see that. So if you want to label as entertainment, absolutely. I could get behind that completely. Where I have trouble getting behind is the sport thing.
Got it.
And doing things from a sports perspective.
That makes sense.
That's my thing, because like if I could go as a fan and not have to work and just be like an enthusiast of it, sign me up. I'd be right there, front row, reactions, everything. But because I have to work and I'm media and I have to look at it in a different light and more from the sport angle, that's the reason it doesn't do it for me.
That makes sense. You just don't respect it as a sport. It comes down to that.
To each their own. Like for me, for sports, like there's offense and there's defense.
Yeah.
You can't play defense in that
right.
sport.
Yeah.
So for that reason, like, and for me, when I grew up playing sports, whether football, lacrosse, basketball, I love playing defense. I'm a defensive guy. It's part of the sport. Like in the greatest basketball player of all time conversation, you got LeBron and Michael Jordan. What Michael Jordan will always have over LeBron James is how many defensive player of the year awards does LeBron James have and how many does Michael Jordan have?
Right.
Jordan got it. LeBron never got it.
He never got one?
Never got one.
Wow.
It's an important aspect of the sport. LeBron James is 6'8", 260. Michael Jordan, 6'6", 215. Considerable size difference between the two. Playing different positions, different eras, and one was a defensive MVP, one wasn't.
A lot of respect to defenders because it is tiring, man. I'm in the Lifetime League out here. Whenever I have to guard the best player, I am gassed.
You're gassed, right? And that's why even in a sport like football, you have 11 guys on the field, but you don't have the same guys playing offense as they do play defense. How many guys in the NFL right now are on both sides of the ball? I can't think of one person off the top of my head that's playing both sides of the ball.
Not one. Maybe on the punt return and offense.
Special teams, but that's a little different too, because you're coming in for one play, and that play happens every maybe 3 to 8 times every game, if that.
Yeah, no, that's true. You got to factor in the defense, 100%. What about pickleball? You respect that sport?
Oh, of course. It's like human tennis.
Yeah.
It's human. Like I know older people are involved in getting involved in that because they can do that, but like. Yeah, anything where you can build sweat equity, I think is a sport.
Yeah, it gets a lot of heat because I study people comments on social media, and whenever I see a viral pickleball clip, all the comments are like, "This is not a sport," and they hate on it. But I respect it.
But some people will then argue, is golf a sport?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, and some people say, is NASCAR a sport?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Requires a lot of skill.
It requires skill. I mean, to each their own. And that's where you could make an argument, too, that power slap is a sport, because then the slapping requires a specific skill set. And maybe your chin has to have some sort of...
but bone density.
structure,
Yeah.
density. But that's the thing too, is once your chin goes, you can't get your chin back.
Yeah, well, there's too much luck involved in that sport for me to consider it a sport.
True, because you flip a coin, the other guy, you get knocked out, you never got your chance to slap. That always bothered me.
That bothered me too, because the guy who goes first, 95% chance they're winning or have an edge to win.
Yeah.
So I wish there was more.
Is there a way to change that?
Maybe the first slap should be at the same time.
Okay, now I'm on board. All right, now I'm on board. Now you got equal chance, equal defense. Maybe there's a way you can, just like, you like with boxing, you throw the jab and and
Oh yeah, maybe if you could play some D a little bit, like have a hand in there. Because some of those knockouts are vicious.
Can you imagine because it's a new sport, right? They're going to change the rules. Can you imagine they just create some sort of new surface space where you can stand in? It's some sort of like box structure that allows you to move your head to a certain degree. I don't know how you can make a slap in that, but I'm just thinking of ways out loud that you can maybe switch the variations of it to allow something like defense and strategy to really come to play.
That'd be cool, because this can only go so far with the current format.
Right. Like, how far can you take it? Like, how many people can enjoy a live experience? Like, how big can the arena or the venue be? And then, like, how do you make a real show out of it? Because, like, they're blessed that a lot of the overhead, a lot of the costs, it's just using what they've already built with the UFC.
Right.
But how do you grow it beyond that?
100%. Schmo, it's been cool, man. Where can people find your site and your social media handles?
Yeah, so the Schmo312.com is my website. Follow me on all socials at the Schmo312. The YouTube's at the Schmo, TheSchmo. Again, the way I'm talking now is not how I would be a character. You got to get something out of me,
let's
right?
do it, man.
What do we want to do?
Do your closing statement that you normally do.
All right, this is the Schmo. He's the pro. It's the Digital Social Hour. We're wrapping this thing up. We appreciate your time. Clearly, this is a completely different guy speaking than the one you were just listening to.
Absolutely. It's been an honor, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.